Hey, this is Cale Bigelow for Purdue University. This is Rick Brandenburg for Turf Bugs and Rock and Roll. And today I have special guest, Dr. Fred Yelverton, weed science extraordinaire at North Carolina State University. And if you don't know who Fred Yelverton is, well, you need to get out more. Fred and I have worked together for over 25 years now. We used to be co-directors of the Center for Turfgrass Environmental Research at NC State, and have traveled the world, taught seminars in China, not at a wet market, but in China, Australia, South Africa, all over the place. And enjoyed working with him for a long time, and he brings a lot of knowledge to the subject. So today, I've asked him just to talk a little bit about for some weed control considerations in turf in early May. And with that, I'll turn it over to Fred. And Fred, you've got 15 seconds.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me. Glad you could stop by. I hope you enjoyed that horseshoe bat we had for lunch. It was really kind of tasty. Just don't sneeze on anybody for 14 days. You'll be all right. Seriously, thanks for having me. Let's talk about weed management here. So here we are in mid-April when we're recording this. And if you've been following us, we've been talking all winter and spring about how delayed we are this year. In terms of growing degree days. We can measure that, of course. It's shaping up to be the warmest winter on record here in North Carolina. And that's probably true along most of the East Coast, at least, in many areas of the country and in the Deep South as well. But what we have had is we've had some chilly weather here, which is kind of, slowed that early spring quite a bit. For instance, we had early crabgrass germination this year, as we predicted. But as of right now, we don't have goosegrass germination. I've been looking. I've been putting out some pre-emergence goosegrass trials, and I'm sure there's some germinated somewhere, but I can't find it. Now, typically, goosegrass germinates when 24-hour mean soil temperatures average about 60 degrees for 3 or 4 days. Think about that. We had 55-degree temperatures back in January, and we still haven't had that successive 60-degree soil temperature data for 3 or 4 consecutive days, which means that we've cooled down a bit. Now, we're still, if you look at growing degree days, we're still 2 to 3 weeks ahead of our 30-year average, but we were 3 weeks plus ahead. So what that means is we still have time to get some pre-emergence out for goosegrass. It needs to be done right away, and probably by the end of April it would have germinated depending on what the weather's like here. So goosegrass germination is one of the things we're looking to right now. I will mention that Kyllinga is up and growing furiously. I've already put out some post-emergence Kyllinga test. And of course, it comes back from rhizomes very, very early. It has been up and growing for a month here or more. And I've even seen some germinating from seed. So we have that we're dealing with. So right now, we're in that transition phase where winter annual weeds are going out, or will be going out soon. And that's one thing I'd like to mention. I know we like to talk about biology and ecology of various pests. I'll get a lot of questions in April and May about, well, I got this winter annual weed that's blooming and I really what can I spray on it to kill it? One thing to keep in mind is a lot of times before herbicide will kill it, the hot weather's going to kill it. So what I suggest a lot of times when we get into late spring is just mow those weeds down, stress them a little bit more, and let them die out on their own and save your money on your herbicide. So know exactly what you're spraying, know what your weed you're looking at, and know its life cycle, and you will have a good IPM program, and you'll save your money on herbicides. Now, we've also talked a lot about, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what can we do management-wise during this slowdown period where people are operating on reduced staffs, and golf is still going on in most states with 1 person per cart, etc. And I visited golf courses putting out trials, and it's really a lot of golfers are out there. And in general, I think they're obeying the social distancing pretty well. But one of the things you may want to do with reduced staffs is make sure you make good use of plant growth regulators. Primo, Trinexapac, on warm season turf, cool season turf. We have we have paclobutrazol. All of those products during the peak of their PGR effect will reduce mowing by about 50%. So use those to your advantage to reduce some of your mowing requirements. Cool season grasses right now in April and May are really growing like crazy, whether it's, ryegrass, bentgrass, Kentucky bluegrass, tall fescue, whatever it is you're managing, they're really doing their thing now. So you can reduce mowing on those turf species with the use of the appropriate plant growth regulator. And then the warm season grasses, when we get on over into, depending on where you are, get in that summer growth phase, typically for us here in the Raleigh area, that's going to be about June 1st, so you can use that as kind of a guide based on where you are. Maybe a little bit earlier this year, but when it gets in that summer growth phase where you're having to mow it, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, that's when you really would benefit from a plant growth regulator. You want to be careful not to put them on too early on a warm season grass that's not fully growing. It may be green, but it's not really growing, because that can set it back a bit. And you're not really mowing it that much anyway, so you're kind of wasting your time and effort and money there. So remember, use plant growth regulators. Always go by the same thing you use with aerification. You do that practice when the turf is actively growing, and that's when you want to use plant growth regulator. So that can help you quite a bit during this time of reduced maintenance. With reduced maintenance staff, that's a good way you can capture some savings there on labor. Don't forget to do the basic practices. Basically what you want to do is you want to maintain your turf, so when we do open back up at full strength and we get your staffs back, that you haven't sacrificed the health of the turf species. So don't forget the basics. Go back to the basics. Forget some of the fine details, maybe things like edging and things that take a lot of labor, and I would say more of the fine details. Just concentrate on the basics of turf management. All of those things are going to help you with pest management. Also, it's going to help turf competition to reduce weed competition, as well as other pests. So with that, Rick, that's kind of my thoughts for this beautiful spring we're having, and I hope everybody stays safe, and we'll get past this at some point. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Fred. Appreciate it very much. Hope that helps. Look forward to talking with you again soon.